Director of Marketing at Kiefer Consulting, and I'd like to welcome you to our August webinar. Today's webinar is the evolution of SharePoint forms from InfoPath to Nintex to mobile. So in the next half hour, we hope to give you some good information that you can start moving on immediately. Today's presenter is Malcolm Eaton, who's our Regional Director of Business Development at Kiefer Consulting. And for the next half hour, Malcolm will go over the topic, and at the end, we'll go ahead and answer any questions that you might have. Malcolm?
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much. We're really excited to have everybody today. With 30 minutes, we're going to go pretty fast. If you notice in the GoToMeeting window there, you can ask questions, and so throughout that GoToMeeting window, take a look. Feel free to ask us some questions over there. Brian's going to read through the questions, and then we'll answer those at the end for you. So, and we'll stay on as long as you need kind of to answer questions and go through any sort of comments or feedback that you might have as well. So we do appreciate it.
Malcolm, you want to go ahead and start recording as well?
Oh, that's right. I am recording the meeting today, so this will be available on YouTube at a later time. So if I'm going too fast for you today, we will save it. We'll send you guys a link to the YouTube as well, so you can see it there. Today, what we're going to be going through is really talking about how forms evolve, how we've kind of come from an InfoPath form, moving to tools such as Nintex forms, and we're going to show you how they've got a tool that works really well with the mobile pieces. So we're going to show you examples and demos of that. We're going to spend about 5-10 minutes on slides and then about 20 minutes on demos. Like I said, pretty fast today, but if you have questions, please let us know. So I have been working with Kiefer Consulting now for a couple of years, and one of the things that we're doing here is I've been fortunate enough to work with SharePoint since about 2003. Been working with Nintex for like the last 5-6 years. They've been a really trusted partner in a couple of the organizations that I've worked for, so we really like what the benefits of that tool are. And I love presenting, love talking about some of these technologies. So if there are certain things you hear today and you want kind of a more deep dive on some of these topics, please let me know. Use that contact information below. Questions, comments, please. Kiefer Consulting, very, very quickly, been around for a long time, right? We've been focused on the California area helping clients, but we've also helped clients outside of California as well. Real deep experience with SharePoint, and now we're doing a lot of Office 365 work, migrations, and we're seeing a lot of people migrating off of the InfoPath forms, moving to Nintex, and so moving to other tools because InfoPath is being retired. And the last thing is you'll see that we really trust kind of some of the partners that we work with, and today we're going to be talking about Nintex, but those partnerships help us to not reinvent the wheel. And so one of the things we're able to do is work with you, work with clients to say, okay, hey, we don't really want to reinvent that wheel as we go through. Before we get started, let's take a quick little poll here. So what I really kind of want to get a sense of is how are you guys currently doing forms today? And so I know a lot of people are interested in saying, okay, hey, I was using InfoPath and I want to make that migration off of InfoPath as I go through. What are you using today to kind of make your tools as you go through there? And so one of the things that we're seeing is a lot of people are using Word or InfoPath or other tools as they're making their migration. So let me close that down and we'll take a look there. And what you'll see is, what we're seeing is that a lot of people are using Microsoft Word. And so one of the things we've seen in the past is as people develop these forms in Word, they'll print them to paper or they'll email them out to people and then they'll kind of collaborate all that information together. We're seeing some InfoPaths in there as well. So with InfoPath, one of the things that you're going to see is that InfoPath is 2013 was the last version that they're going to use. They're going to have support extending that through 2026. I think what Microsoft ran into is that there were just a lot of people on InfoPath, and so they extended some of that support through there. There were a couple initiatives that Microsoft was trying to undertake to create an InfoPath replacement, but currently there's nothing on the roadmap that Microsoft has. They're looking at forms, they were looking at apps, they were looking at access even as being possible replacements, but none of those have come to fruition yet. And so a lot of people are looking for sort of what is that other step they can take to create those forms. With some of the people migrating from InfoPath, there are still things that InfoPath does that Nintex does not do, and there are things that Nintex does that InfoPath doesn't do. But what we're seeing is that there's an evolution of a lot of those things that InfoPath can do moving into Nintex forms as well. But there are certain things around code behinds and some .NET type integrations that you're just not going to have coming out of the box with Nintex that InfoPath does do. But what we're seeing is that there's ways to do those things without having to be in code. One of the things we're going to talk about today is just how do you make that evolution? How do you get off of those Word forms? How do you get off of those paper forms and move sort of into SharePoint, into Nintex? And you'll see that in the demos today as we go through each of the different steps. Before we go there, though, you really want to think about how do you work with forms? How do you sort of utilize your forms? When you think about the process, you want to make sure that what is the process behind each form? One of the things that we've seen time and time again is people are using these forms and then they're attaching them to processes on the back end. The other thing that we've seen a lot is people give us like a 31 or 50-page form, and what it ends up being is it's really sort of one process with 8 different forms intertwined with it. Really try to rethink how you're using forms, rethink how you're kind of working with each of them before migrating to any of the tools that we're talking about today, because that will help to really create simple forms. And so the goal there is how do we simplify the process? How do we make it easy for our end users, whether it's electronic or whether it's paper or Word? How do we integrate those processes? The tools that we're talking about today will help us to link to back-end data as well, being able to use things such as web services, SQL calls. It's not going to be just SharePoint data that we can access in using the Nintex forms and using some of these processes. And we want that because we want to be able to utilize these forms in different form factors. So whether it's on the web, whether it's online, we want to make sure that we can do that as well. I'm excited to be able to show you a mobile example as well today. So we're going to show you sort of how we can use mobile within the forms, populating SharePoint lists. And that's important because we're seeing a lot of people, we don't want to be stuck in one area as we're using some of these forms. We're going to take a look at 2 different forms today, 2 different tools today. One is the sort of enterprise edition of Nintex and how it works, and then how some of these different components work. One thing you'll see here is this web services and SQL support in the upper left. What's really important about that is that allows us to integrate with other line of business systems. So we can talk to SQL Server, we can talk to different applications. As long as they have those web service calls, we can work with you there. All right, enough of the PowerPoint. So let's go take a look at an environment. So one of the things you see here is a simple leave request list, right? And so in SharePoint, I've created a list where I want to create a leave request. I click on a new item here, and what it does is it gives me a very basic SharePoint form. And so I'm looking at that form. I see a SharePoint list, nothing special here. One of the nice features about Nintex forms is as we come in through here and I want to take a modify that form, I come into list and then I click on Nintex forms up here. So as we install it, whether it's in the cloud or whether it's on-premise, you'll see the menu bars get updated. I come in through here, I want to customize that item form. And now what we'll see is it took that list and I have done no coding, I haven't touched a thing yet, and it automatically created it and made it look like a very nice form, right? And within the form here, I would then be able to publish that form. I can go through here, I can create different form factors for that form. All I need to do is click on the smartphone, and then what Nintex is doing, once again, I haven't written a line of code, haven't done a thing yet. You see it creates a mobile version of that form for me right out of the box. So now what I'm going to do here quickly is I'm going to simply publish that form. And so once I click publish here, it's asking me what versions of the form I want to publish. So I want to publish a desktop version and a smartphone version. I click publish, and now what it's doing is it's taking me, it's putting that form out there, putting it on the desktop. I'm going to click OK. And now let's go back to the form itself. So as I take a look at that form, you'll see the new lead request form. We saw the old simple form before. Now I click new. And now what you see is a brand new form. That took all of 1 minute, 3 minutes, and I've got a nice looking form, better looking date controls as I come through there. Very easy to sort of move that form around as we want to. Okay, so let's take a look at another form that I created. So one of the things that I was doing is I was just playing around a little bit, creating a form and a demo for today, right? And so one of the things we've done is I've created a real basic list. And within my list, all we're saying is, okay, sort of where are you? What are you doing? You see here, it's a very simple, ugly form. Let's take a look at how we would modify the form, how we would move around in that form a little bit. So I'm going to click cancel here, and let's go and take a look at list. And now what I want to do is I want to modify that form again. I come in here to Nintex Forms. I'm going to click customize that item form. One of the things I want to show you here is how simple it is to move things around on the form, how simple it is to add information to the form. One of the things that you can do within Nintex Forms is add sort of a geolocation information here. On the left-hand side, you see a lot of the different form controls. Let me make my screen just a little bit bigger here. Let's make that a little bit bigger. And let's do one more. And so what you see here are a lot of geolocation, or a lot of different controls that I can add to the form. And so here are some of the things that we can just sort of drag and drop onto the form. People, rich text. Here's those SQL requests that we talked about. Here's those web requests that we talked about. We can have that form be able to access different pieces of what we're trying to get to. Another piece here is I can pull the SharePoint list information. I can put SharePoint information in here, grabbing data from columns, list lookups, workflows. I can put that information in here as well. And then I can also add list columns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a real basic form that you guys are going to help me populate today. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to say, where are you and how's the weather where you're at, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to clean up this form a little bit. I'm going to move some things around on my desktop. So I'm going to have my latitude and my longitude. I'm going to make it look nice as we come in through here. You see how I'm just dragging and dropping the different controls. We're not going to use any pictures today, so let's get rid of my pictures control here. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that. And then we're going to add a new column. So when I add a new column, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to click Create Column. And what you see is a real basic SharePoint list. So Nintex is using SharePoint to say, okay, hey, let's use the same way you're going to create a column in SharePoint. We're going to use that same way to create it in Nintex. So it's actually calling the same control that you would within Nintex. So all we're saying is how's the weather, multiple lines of text. Let's make it a plain text field. I then click OK. And so now you see it added into my form controls. Over here on the left-hand side, I have how is the weather. So now let's simply drag and drop that new control onto my form. I click this. I'm going to move this around a little bit. I'm going to move this over. And I'm going to then add a label. So a simple thing I can do is I can copy this label if I want here. Copy. And then I'm going to paste that label back here. And now all I want to do is say, how is the weather? So I click on my settings. And now what you'll see is within the settings, within each of these different controls, I have a lot of flexibility, right? So how is the weather? And when you create these forms or emails, you can do a lot of lookups, right? So I come in here through the referencing, and what I can do is I can look up into different fields within the form itself. So here are some common fields that we could add. I could add item properties. There's all these variables that you can use. We can have constants coming from workflows, and then obviously very basic functions, days, calendar, information. So you can create dynamic text as we add these fields And within each of the forms, you see a lot of different ways to modify the appearance. You can get into very complex CSS information through here. You can work with being able to resize it, what you want to be visible, what's not visible. There's a lot of flexibility that you have in customizing the look and the feel of that form. So let's save that. All right, and then let's bring this information up here and move this up right there. So we're going to make the form look nice. And now let's take a look at the smartphone version of the same form. So I'm going to click smartphone here. And so sort of the same concept, right? Now, because I've already created this form, Nintex didn't resize the information for me. Once I make those updates, it says, hey, I'm not gonna mess up your form yet because it's already there. So we go back in here, same sort of thing, right? So I'm customizing the form for any of my mobile applications. So there, same concept of what we did before, just moving that over. And now I'm going to add a label a different way here. So I'm going to come in through here. I'm going to take a look at some of my general controls. All I want to do is add a label. I come in through there, and then I'm going to say, how is the weather? Click question mark, and let's go back to close that out. And oops, I didn't save it. Hold on a second. So I need to click weather, and what I forgot to do there is click general and click save. So there's my weather control, and moving that up, and let's make it look nice. There it is. I'm now going to save that, and now what I'm going to do is I need to publish that form. So right, I need to push that out to the web, and then what I also need to do is use Nintex Live. So here you see I have what's called Nintex Live. I click on the live settings. What this does is it takes my form, publishes it to the Nintex cloud, right? And what I'm doing is I'm allowing anonymous access because I want you guys to be able to access this form for me today. So then I click on save, and now I'm going to go back to publish here. So I come on in and click on publish, and you see right here I'm going to click on publish and close. Now what it's telling me is to be able to access this form, here's the URL that I'm going to use, right? And then what it's saying is I want to publish that form out. So I'm going to click publish. And so now what I want you guys to do is we're going to show a couple ways to input information in there, but here is where we have some crowd participation. So what I want you to do is take this URL, whether you're on your phone, your desktop, take this URL, put it into your web browser, and then I'm going to ask you to sort of submit some information for me there. And what we'll see is that we'll be populating that list from what you guys are doing. Now make sure that when you enter the URL that you put the Z and the X in there as capitalized. Everything else is lowercase, but it is case sensitive. So as you go through here, put some information in, and we'll take a look at how to publish that information. So I'll leave that up while we go and take a look at what we've done. So now I come in through here, and now what I want to do is click new item. I'm going to come and I'm going to click new item. And so now what we see is that new form I created. So I'm going to do a control minus here real quick. One more control minus. And so now where are you? Now one of the things that I'm on is this demo machine that I'm showing you here is in Seattle. It's the Nintex demo machine. And now I can click use my location. It's going to ask me, do you want to allow this application to use your location? I absolutely do. And then in Seattle, we're going to say that it's rainy in Seattle. And I want to click save here. And so now what it did is it said, okay, hey, it's rainy in Seattle. Got it, right? And so now what I want to do is I'm going to use the same form, and I'm going to now do it on my mobile phone, right? And so one of the things that we've got is I've got a nice application here to be able to put this to show you kind of what I've got on my phone. So let me bring that up. So what I'm doing is loading my iPhone, So now what you see is this is my iPhone right here that we're looking at, right? So I'm going to click Done, and I'm going to go back to this application here. I'm going to go back to my form. That was my old form, and I'm going to refresh. And so this is what my old form looked like. I refresh. Now you see my new form. And so I am doing this demo today from San Francisco. And I'm going to say use my location, and I put my location in there. How's the weather today? It's sunny today, actually. And I'm going to click Done, and then I'm going to click Save. So now you see my form has been submitted. I've done it all on the mobile device as we come in through here. And now we're going to go take a look at sort of some of the things that we've got here. So I'm going to move that back over. And so now what we see is, let me do a refresh here. Okay, so we've got an entry from Folsom. I think that's going to be my friend Brian as we go through. So we take a look, and now I want to take a look at sort of what I have in my form. So I come in through here, and now you see there's my form. Now what's interesting is I can click on this little globe here, and what it's going to do is it's going to take me right to that location in Bing Maps. So right away it says, okay, hey, where's that location? Finds it. And there we go. So we know that the server is down there on King County as we look at it. Now this is something that would be very hard to do in SharePoint natively, right? So if I was going to do this in SharePoint natively, I'd have to put some geolocation things in there. I'd have to work with that. I'd have to kind of keep looking at how to kind of process some of that information. But then as I come through, you'll see as we go through, refreshing it a little bit. Very easy for us to go through it and make some of those changes to the forms. And what I want to show you as we're kind of getting some more of that information is that forms can get very complex, right? And so you can build them out to have different sort of panels and information. They can be very long. There's a new feature now that allows us to print these forms to PDF as we go through here. But one of the things you see a lot of times is that depending upon the options that I choose, I want to see certain information. So in this form where we were helping a client out, they said it's for federal and local. I didn't need to fill out step 6, but what I need to do for state government, then I need to come in here and fill out for state 6. So we're kind of coming full circle to saying, okay, hey, we want the forms to be simple. We want them to be easy to use. And so this is how we make them simple. We go through there and we kind of work with clients, with people to kind of say, hey, how do we make the form simple? How do we make it nice and easy to use? The other thing, too, is that there's both a cloud version of the Nintex piece, and then there is the on-premise version, right? And so here we see what we took a look at there was the on-prem version. So let me see one more refresh here. There we go. So there's a couple more entries, and so now we see Bay Area coastal fog. We come in through there, right? Take a look. See, I'm on one side of San Francisco and it's sunny. Here's on the other side, it's coastal fog. This is where I learned the term microclimate. I didn't even know that it existed in Chicago when I was there. Once again, Bing Maps, loading the information up, showing right where that person's located as you come through there. So one of the things we really wanted to show off here was sort of the simplicity of how easy it is to kind of create those forms, work with those forms as you're going through there. But also, I don't want to oversimplify it because there's a lot of different things that we can do within the forms, right? So as we close them out, and you saw a lot of those different ways that we can work with the forms. But what we did show here today was how simple it is to create and kind of work with the forms, how to kind of go in, log in, grab that information within there as well. So what I want to do here is let me go back to the slide deck real quick. And so what we see is within here, what we're able to do is, let me go to this slide.
Hey, Malcolm, we did have a quick question that related to the mobile. The question is, why does Nintex not use the content previously typed for the desktop form? Why do we type "how is the weather" again on the mobile form?
Great question, right? And so one of the things that I did is before this presentation started, what I did was I created a mobile version to test. And so once I created that mobile version to test, it locks the form down. But if you remember correctly, when we did the employee leave form, what it did is it pulled everything in. So what you want to do in that scenario is you really want to create your SharePoint list, have it completely flushed out for all the fields that you want before you go in and create the forms. So if everything's flushed out, then that works really well to have everything auto-generate sort of where we're at there. So so what we want to do here is, let me get to this slide. One of the things that I like about the Nintex mobile piece is that one of the things you didn't see today is that with the attachments, we can actually take pictures. And so one of the things we saw with an example is somebody went out and had to do reviews of different restaurant equipment. And so they're looking at restaurant equipment. They were saying, okay, was it good? Was it not good? They would take pictures of that equipment, integrate it with what location they were at to say they were at this restaurant, and then be able to do offline submission as well. And so there's a lot of features of the Nintex mobile app that allow you to be incredibly flexible, where with just SharePoint, you're really locked into certain key things and certain key features there. What you saw today was a web version of that form. What you can actually do is you can create a customized app that will be able to integrate all those pieces as well. Nintex has a mobile application where you load your information in, and it provides a more iOS or Android feel as you walk through there. So I want to be sure to let you know that we only saw a portion of what can be done there. And then what's nice is that you have all these different sort of ideas of how you can work, how you can integrate some of these processes. And what we've presented before in the past was about some of the workflow components. Now imagine tying all these things together and then having the ability to kind of take that form, push it into a workflow, and complete your entire processes as you go through. So there's a lot of different flexibility and things that we can work with there for each of the different pieces. So we flew through things, want to make sure we get you guys nice 30 minutes quick, show you some features, show you some ideas. If you have any additional questions, and Brian, if you see any, let me know. Type them into that box below. But if you have something you'd like us to get deeper into, please contact me. One of the things that we want to do is really give you guys a deeper dive on some of these things. These meetings today are really to kind of give you a real high level of things that can be done, what can be accomplished. But what we really want to do is say, hey, if you have any questions or feedback, please let us know, or if you need more information. Brian, is there anything else that we've got on the other side there?
No, we don't see any more questions from the. Oh, actually, we do have one more. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, great.
She asked if Nintex will only have a 2013 version.
Wow, great question. Perfect lead-in, Christy. And so they just released their 2016 version. So there now is a Nintex for 2016, and that is available today. And so you can, so they are working with their both their forms and their workflow component are working with SharePoint 2016. Well, excellent. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. We hope this was helpful. We're having these series of webinars each month. Please come back to visit us and let us know if we can help you in any way. Thank you very much.